There is a wall on an old farm property in eastern Pennsylvania that has not been repointed since 1911, not once. No contractor has touched it in over a century. The joints between the stones are still tight enough that you cannot slide a knife blade between them. Compare that to the mortar job a licensed contractor did on a chimney 3 counties over 8 years ago, which is already crumbling out in fist-sized chunks. Same climate, same freeze-thaw cycle. It's a completely different outcome. The difference is not the stone. The difference is what is holding the stone together, and it is not what you think. If you have ever stood in front of a crumbling brick wall, watching mortar turn to powder in your hands, you already know the frustration. You pay for a repair, it lasts 5, maybe 10 years, and you are back where you started. That is not bad luck. That is the material doing exactly what it was engineered to do. Modern Portland cement mortar was patented in England in 1824 by a bricklayer named Joseph Aspdin, and it was built for one priority above all others: speed. It sets hard within a day, which made it perfect for a country racing to lay railroads and raise factories after the Civil War, but hard is not the same thing as durable. A rigid material does not flex with a building's natural movement, and when water works into a wall in November and freezes in January, that rigidity is exactly what cracks the joint and starts pulling the masonry apart with it. There is an older approach, one that predates Portland cement by literally thousands of years, that behaves in almost the opposite way. Lime mortar, made from calcium hydroxide rather than modern cement clinker, does not just sit inertly in a wall. It slowly absorbs carbon dioxide from the air over decades and converts back into limestone, essentially petrifying in place. It gets stronger with age instead of weaker. 19th century masonry communities across rural Pennsylvania and Ohio, many of them descended from German and Swiss settlers who brought the technique across the Atlantic in the 1700s, never fully abandoned it, even as Portland cement swept through the rest of the American building trade. The story stretches back much further than colonial America. At a Neolithic settlement in what is now Serbia, called Lipinski Vrh, archaeologists uncovered floors made from burned limestone and sand, roughly 7,000 to 8,000 years old, still largely intact when excavated. Egyptian builders used lime and gypsum mortars on the pyramids at Giza around 2600 BC and during the Ming Dynasty. Chinese builders mixed sticky rice soup directly into their lime mortar on sections of the Great Wall, treated as folklore for centuries, until researchers at Zhejiang University analyzed samples in 2010 and confirmed it chemically. A carbohydrate in the rice called amylopectin interacts with the calcium carbonate in the lime, controlling how the crystals form and producing a denser, more water-resistant bond. The clearest example, though, is Roman. Vitruvius wrote detailed instructions around 15 BC on slaking and aging lime, insisting the putty rest a minimum of 3 years before fine work. The Pantheon in Rome, completed under Hadrian around 128 AD, still stands with an unreinforced concrete dome spanning 142 feet. Its mortar contains volcanic ash from the Bay of Naples, what we now call a pozzolan, which reacts with lime to form calcium silicate hydrates, the same family of compounds behind modern concrete strength, except the Roman version keeps reacting for centuries. A team from MIT and Harvard, publishing in Science Advances in January 2023, examined a Roman city wall and found that small white mineral deposits long dismissed as sloppy mixing were actually functional. When cracks form and water gets in, those deposits dissolve and recrystallize, sealing the crack from the inside. The Romans appear to have built self-healing concrete 2,000 years ago. So why did American builders walk away from a material this durable? It's mostly for the same reason any industry adopts a faster, cheaper standard. Portland cement could be manufactured consistently at scale, set in a day instead of weeks, and trade schools increasingly built their curricula around it through the early 20th century. New York's Rosendale region alone produced close to 10 million barrels of natural hydraulic cement a year at its 1899 peak. Cement that went into the pedestal of the Statue of Liberty, the piers of the Brooklyn Bridge, and the West Wing of the Capitol. Within a few decades, faster-setting Portland cement had captured most of that market. The skill of slaking and aging lime largely dropped out of mainstream training, not a conspiracy, so much as an industry optimizing for throughput over longevity. An industrial chemist named Uriah Cummings, who had worked in both industries, published a book in 1898 arguing that swapping natural cement mortars for Portland in ordinary masonry work would backfire. Since the added rigidity would crack under normal building movement, and its higher alkalinity would attack older, softer brick. Within a generation, almost nobody in the trade was trained in the old method at all. If you own a house or outbuilding built before roughly 1930, this is directly useful to you, not just historically interesting. Go look at your chimney or your foundation joints. If you see a fine white powder, hairline cracks, or mortar that comes out like sugar when you drag a screwdriver through it, that is Portland cement mortar failing on a fairly predictable schedule. You can repoint those joints yourself with lime mortar for a fraction of what a contractor charges. Start by raking out the failing mortar to a depth of about 3/4 of an inch. Then dampen the joint with a spray bottle before pressing new mortar in with a narrow tuck pointing tool, working it firmly into the joint rather than just troweling it on the surface, which the trade calls beating in. Rework the joint once or twice more over the next few hours as it firms up, and cover it with damp burlap and mist it 2 or 3 times a day for a minimum of 3 days. Ideally 7 to 14 for exterior work exposed to weather. Slow, damp curing is what allows the mortar to carbonate properly. Let it dry out too fast, and it never develops real strength. For the mix itself, workable exterior ratio is roughly 1 part lime putty, 2.5 parts sharp, angular masonry sand, not rounded river or beach sand, which will not lock together mechanically. Just adding a small amount, 10 to 15% by volume of a pozzolan, such as finely crushed brick, crushed terracotta, or calcined clay improves water resistance and lets the mortar cure even in damp conditions. Type S hydrated lime from a masonry supplier, mixed with water and left to soak for at least a day, will work as a substitute if you cannot source pre-aged lime putty. The safety piece matters more here than in most DIY projects, so take it seriously. If you are working with quicklime, calcium oxide, rather than prehydrated lime, understand that adding water to it triggers a reaction that can push the temperature above 200 degrees Fahrenheit within seconds, along with spitting and boiling that can cause serious skin and eye injury. Always add lime to water, never water to lime. Wear chemical-resistant gloves rated for high pH exposure, and use a face shield with goggles underneath it, not one or the other. Pre-slaked lime putty from a masonry supplier avoids this step entirely and is the more sensible choice for most homeowners. Lime mortar is also not typically code compliant for new structural construction. The ordinary repair and maintenance on an existing building generally falls outside code review and most municipalities check your local rules, if you are unsure. None of this makes Portland cement mortar a scam or lime mortar as a miracle. Portland cement is genuinely the right material for fast, load-bearing modern construction, and lime mortar is genuinely the wrong choice if you need a wall standing in 6 weeks. But if you are maintaining an older building, one built with softer, historic brick or stone, using a mortar that is harder than the masonry itself is often what destroys it, because the mortar should be the part that yields to seasonal movement, not the brick. That single mismatch is responsible for a surprising amount of the mysterious masonry failure people pay contractors to chase for decades. The men who built these walls before the invention of the ready-mix truck weren't primitive. They were working with a material that rewarded patience in an era when patience was cheaper than it is now. You don't have to choose between old and new. You just have to know which one is right for the wall you're standing in front of. That's it for this one. Hidden Fix Lab. We'll be back with the next piece of the puzzle.